So in today's video, we're actually going down the security route. And more specifically, we're going to be looking at this kit from Fishguard. This is a FX security system, and it's a really cool bit of kit. Now, obviously with tackle prices going up and up, unfortunately, that means tackle thefts are going to go up and up. And some of you guys will be aware that 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗍, just before Christmas, I believe it was, actually had all of his kit stolen. Now, granted, that was from his house. It wasn't on the bank, but there's nothing to say that tackle thefts on the bank aren't going to rise as well. When the average bivvy is 800 quid now, a set of rods is £1,000, a set of reels is £1,000. There's a lot of money that you're taking with you. So that is where this sort of kit comes in. But firstly, what is it? What do you get in the kit? Now, it really depends what model you go for, because there's a few different options. But you've got a starter, a combi, and a complete. Now, I've actually got the complete, which actually features 3 sensors like this. You get the floodlight, and you get the receiver as well. Now, if you're getting the combi, which is the middle one, you basically get the receiver, you get 2 sensors, and you get a floodlight. Or if you're getting the starter, you get a receiver and 2 sensors. So it depends how much you want to put into it, but the floodlight is a very cool bit of kit. So I think it's worth getting either the combi or the complete. But I'll get this set up. It's nice and easy to set up. I've been playing around with it all morning. And once you've got the batteries in place, which again are really easy to put in because you've got basically just a little twist lock design, no tools needed. Once you've got all the batteries in, turn everything on, everything just syncs together. Now, there is a pairing option as well for if some reason it's not syncing, but these, they didn't have batteries in to start with, and then I've just chucked batteries in, turned them on, and then everything syncs up to this receiver, which I will show you in a little bit. But let's get it all set up, get it all in place, so I can show you exactly how this works. So I've got everything set up. I've actually got 2 sensors out at the moment. I've got one in the very corner of my swim behind this camera here, and that is cutting straight across to my bivvy. So that means that anyone walking through that gap will trip the sensor and it will go off on this little control unit. I've also got a second one just down the path, which there's basically one main path that actually comes into this swim. So that cuts off that path as well. You can walk all the way past the swim, so you can carry on along that path. So then that means that only that sensor will be triggered, and then the one actually allowing access into the swim won't be triggered. So I know that if someone goes past there, but then that one doesn't go off, that means they are simply just walking around. But it still gives me a heads up that there is someone nearby. I've obviously got another sensor just down here, and I've got the floodlight here as well, just as examples, but I will move that floodlight a little bit later in the day, just so it illuminates the swim from a better position. But that is a very rough guide. Like I say, there's a few different ways that this can alert you. But if we start with the receiver, on the front here, I've got a little 3-watt speaker, which actually sounds surprisingly good when we go on to the different options of alerts. I've got then 5 different LEDs on the front here. Each of those correspond with a different either sensor, floodlight, or the actual unit itself. So when you change settings, it will show on here just to give you a little heads up that the receiver is on. And then on the top, you've got 2 different dials. One is your on-off switch, which also then turns into your volume switch. So if I whack that right up so you can hear the examples. And then the other one is your sound selector. There's 4 different sounds to choose from. You can have a doorbell, which is quite nice. You can have a growling dog. I mean, that goes on for longer. You can have a barking dog. Or you can have an owl. Which I think they all sound pretty good. Now, each one of them sounds has obviously got its own use case. During the day, the doorbell is ideal because it just alerts you someone's nearby. Generally, there's not going to be too many issues during the day. You wouldn't have thought anyway. The 2 dog options are really good at night because that works more as a deterrent than just alerting you. If someone walks past your bivvy with the intention of trying to steal things, obviously a dog barking is going to put them off, and especially hearing that at night, it's going to be quite loud, and it's quite an aggressive bark, I think. Yeah, it doesn't sound friendly. But the option of the owl is more to alert yourself that there's someone nearby. So if you don't want to raise too much suspicion, if you're generally in quite a safe place, but you just want to know there's someone around, then by having the owl, no one's going to suspect that you've actually got a security system, but it's still going to alert you that there is someone nearby, and maybe just to be a little bit aware. So that is the receiver. Overall, like I say, it's really simple to use. It's weatherproof, so you can keep it in your bivvy even if you're fishing open front, something like that. If a little bit of moisture gets in, it's not the end of the world. It's going to stay nice and strong. But let's move on to the sensors. Now, Fishguard actually boasts that these sensors offer 100% intruder detection accuracy. Now, that is quite a bold claim. Obviously, I've only had these up here today, so I haven't used them extensively, but from what I've witnessed today, that is pretty true. There's been quite a bit of wind over the course of the day. Leaves have been blowing through, branches have been swaying, and it hasn't gone off. It's only gone off when I've walked through. Now, obviously I haven't had any intruders because it's still winter and it's quite a quiet lake, but if I'm setting it off, then anyone else that walks past will also set it off. So yeah, so far so good. Now, these invisible trip beams, which come out of this little bit here, just hidden behind this frosted bit of plastic, have a range of 6 meters. So basically, if that was in the ground and your bivvy was 6 meters away, anyone going through that gap is going to set it off, which I think is a pretty good range, especially if you've got a couple of sensors as well. You can really dot them around and kind of maximize that coverage. Now, I'm quite fortunate here because the swim that I'm in is almost like a little spit. So I could probably get away with just having one cutting straight across the back of the swim, and that is more than enough because that's probably about a 5 meter wide swim. But if you're in bigger open lakes, what you can do is you can almost pace out 6 meters from, say, the front of the swim. Make sure your bivvy is about 6 meters back, and then you can have 2 beams like that, and that's going to give you a really wide footprint. So then anyone crossing that, no one can get to your rods because they're crossing the beam either way. No one can get to you, and it's only around the back of the swim that people could go undetected. But then if you've got a third one as well, you could have that right at the back of your bivvy, and then that's given 6 meters out. So anyone that walks within 6 meters of your bivvy, which is then 12 meters of your swim, would set something off. The other nice thing as well is they have a really narrow beam, which is really handy, and I guess that helps towards its 100% detection rate, because if it's a wider beam, that's when you're getting more false detection, I guess. If you do have leaves coming in or whatever, then that's going to set it off unexpectedly. But by having a narrow beam, especially if you had it on maybe slightly higher bank sticks, then you know it takes a body to go through that beam to actually set it off. Now, alongside its detection range of 6 meters, it also has almost like a receiver range of up to 100 meters, which might sound a bit extortionate because you're never going to have your control unit 100 meters away from where this is at your rods. But if you get the complete set where you get the 3 sensors, that means you could have one of these sensors aimed at your car boot. So then if your swim is 100 meters or closer to your car, you could have a sensor. So that means that anyone coming again within 6 meters of your car, you'll know about. So it's not only protecting your kit that's actually in front of you, it's protecting whatever you might have left over in your car or the car itself. Now, the final thing to come on to is going to be this floodlight system. And this is a really cool bit of kit. Like I say, it comes in the combi and the complete, but you can buy it separately as well. So if you were to buy the starter kit with the 2 sensors and you really get on with it, but you think, I want to add the floodlight to it, then you can do. But this works in a very similar way to a security light at your home would do, where when the sensor is triggered, the light comes on, and there's actually 24 powerful LEDs situated on the front of this. So obviously it comes into its own at night because these are really powerful. But the nice thing about it as well, on the back of this system, you've got a couple of dials. So you can actually tweak the brightness of this. So if you didn't want it full pelt, then you can lower it down a little bit. As you can see, there is a second dial here too. So if I switch that on, you'll see at the bottom of this, there's an ambient light. And once again, there's a second dial, so you can adjust the brightness of that. But this is completely independent of the security system. So dotted around this floodlight, there is actually 4 sensors. And those sensors will go off if anything happens within a 3 meter radius of it. So the idea of this ambient light is more to help you guys out. If you get a bite and you want to obviously light up your swim, if you're within 3 meters of the floodlight, it will light up the ambient light. This works quite nicely because obviously it's not going to be as bright as the main security light. You don't need it as bright as that. But if you want just a little bit of indication so you can see what's happening, then this ambient light is super useful for that. It will only work in complete darkness as well, but it's a really nice little feature that Fishguard have added in that they didn't necessarily need to, but it helps you guys. So yeah, it is a very cool addition by having this floodlight. I think it's just that next layer of protection. You've obviously got the sound, which I've got the owl at the moment, but then by having this bright light as well, why would someone choose to take your stuff when you've got someone next door in complete darkness? Just quickly moving on to the prices, the starter kit comes in at $329.99. That's with the 2 sensors and the control unit. The combi kit comes in at $399.99, which is 2 sensors, control unit, and the floodlight. And then the complete kit, which I've got with me today, is $489.99, and that's with the 3 sensors, the floodlight, and the control center as well. So if you're wanting the full whack, like I say, that's just short of 500 quid. But I have been looking on the website a few times building up to doing this video. It keeps flashing up that there's 25% off at the moment if you had a code in. So if you are interested in getting a kit like this, make sure you get over there quickly because you can save quite a bit of money. But overall, I think it's a decent product. It definitely does exactly what it's intended to do, and it works, everything syncs, everything's nice and easy. The instructions are super simple, but to be honest, because everything worked so well together, I barely even needed to glance at them. And there's definitely use cases for it, whether you're a bit nervous being out at night on your own, or you're used to going with a mate but you want to start going on your own, whether your kids just started night fishing and you want a bit of security for them, that's another use. There's so many individual uses where this is going to be very important for a good amount of people. But for more information, please do head over to the Fishguard website where you can find out a little bit more about them, a bit more about the actual specs, and I'm sure if you need to contact them, there will be a way to contact them if you want to ask any questions as well. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.